All right. I think everything's working now. I think we're live now. We only got a few people in here right now, but that's okay. Let me get the disclaimers out of the way and we'll jump into it. Hopefully, we have a few people in here to dictate things because I don't have a topic planned out. Um, this is the weekly live broadcast, generally Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. This is where I am. I missed last week, had some family stuff come up. It wasn't anything bad. It was just family stuff that I needed to make a commitment to. Got to put family first sometimes. And anyway, missed last week, but I'm back this week. Barely. Been sick all week. Had a little bit of a running a fever and body aches, and that was really about it. I mean, today's the first day I've actually felt pretty decent. Still a little tired, but I'm doing okay. I'm over it. I think now on the downhill end of it. I didn't run a fever all day today, and that's the first day since like Sunday that I haven't run a fever. So I think I'm in the right. I think I'm on the mend for it right now. So anyway, the weekly live broadcast. This is I don't have a topic planned out. This is just an opportunity to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Ask me questions. Whatever. I do my best to respond to every comment that comes in or every chat that comes in during the live broadcast, the live chat itself, not the comments on the videos. The only things I ask is be polite, be family friendly, don't be rude or hateful with anybody. Don't start cussing anybody, any of those kinds of things. We'll have to kick you out. But other than that, everything else is pretty much fair game. So let's jump into it. We got a couple of people here already. There's Verna says she was the first to show up, the first like, and the first one to show up. I already said that, but it's okay. Thank you very much. I'm glad to see you here, and I appreciate you being here first. And then says, glad you feel a little bit decent. Yeah, not too bad. I mean, it really wasn't the worst illness I've ever had. I mean, I just, like I said, felt kind of achy when I was running a fever. Like my fever would pick up and I'd start feeling achy and run down, and then it would get, reduce. And as it got, lower temperature, and I'd start feeling a little better. But anyway, it wasn't too bad. It could have been a lot worse, that's for sure. I took one day off work, stayed home, and should have probably taken 2 days because I think I was still running a fever part of the day the next day. But anyway, there's Marty. Hello, everyone. Hello to you, Marty. Good to see you. Nikki James says, glad you're feeling better. Thank you. I am too. Joe Sandys here says, hey, everybody, I finally got a Thursday evening off from babysitting. Well, nice. I'm glad you chose to spend it with us. And then says, glad you're on the mend, Chris. Well, thank you. I am too. George Kaiser's here. Good to see you, George. Everybody's saying hello to everybody else. We only got like 14 people in here, so maybe a slow broadcast. I don't have, like I said, I don't have a topic planned out, anything to talk about. Just got to wait till George says, fever and body aches. I ingested some quail poop when cleaning out my quail cage a while back. Made me sick for 3 weeks. Oh, no, that's horrible. Made you sick for 3 whole weeks? Ugh. That's that's terrible. Well, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I just felt, and actually, I didn't. I mean, I went turkey hunting on Saturday. Felt fine, Saturday, but sitting on the ground all day because we were sitting there trying to call them in. We called some close, didn't get them all the way in, so didn't get a turkey. But anyhow, so I was thinking, Sunday I was like, wow, I'm kind of stiff and sore. I thought it was from sitting on the ground. It might have been. Didn't think much about it. Just boy, that really wiped me out. I'm getting old, and sitting on the ground really, did it to me and made me sore and stiff. And then Monday, it was kind of the same thing. I was like, good grief, I'm a bigger wuss than I thought. I'm having all these problems. I must be getting too old. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, I get home Monday, take my temperature. It's 101 degrees. I'm like, oh, well, I got something besides just being a wuss, I guess. No, it wasn't that. Joe Sandy says, I have a couple of questions for you. Well, ask away. We'll get them answered if we can. Verna says, I have 9 new kits on Monday. Awesome. Congratulations. Glad to hear that's going well, hopefully, anyway. Billy says, I got my incubator on lockdown, not much longer. Well, good luck with your hatch. I hope it goes well. I haven't started hatching any quail out yet. Well, I've kind of been under the weather. But this weekend, I'm thinking, is going to be garden planting. So I should be getting out there and getting stuff planted this weekend. We've had just a bunch of storms coming through off and on, tornadoes all around. Nothing major, but, tornadoes are tornadoes. Luckily, it hadn't hit me. It's kind of gone around me, but has affected a lot of people in the area. George says, quail dust is a killer. I can't believe I forced myself to wear a face mask when I clean the cage now. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I never do, but I probably should, honestly. Verna says, I'm eating rabbit tomorrow. Well, awesome. Yeah, I'm sure you've eaten rabbit before, haven't you, Verna? It's not the first time, is it? I know you've eaten guinea pigs, so. Verna says quail dander is just as bad as chicken dander. I'm sure it is. Okay, so yeah, you've had rabbit before. You said, yeah, second time on your own. All right, Joe Sandy says, I sexed my 6-week-old quail today and separated them. I ended up with 9 hens, 8 roos. So far, only 1 rooster is crowing, but how many roosters would you keep? 2 or 3? Okay, let's see. You ended up with 9 hens, 8 roosters. Okay, so, I think two would be plenty. 3 is pushing it on too many, but you could get away with 3 if you wanted. Just make sure you had 1 extra one just in case something happens to one of the roosters or something. Really 2 should cover it pretty well. But again, you might want to have a backup, and really a 1-to-3 ratio, like I said, is kind of pushing it. It's a little bit much, but it's not terrible. So, you could keep 3 of them in there just in case. Like I said, the hens decide one of them is they don't like one of them. They decide to beat the tar out of them or something like that. You have a replacement already there. So you could do it really however you wanted to. And then you said, okay, if 1 rooster is small, can he still get the job done? Sure. Yeah, really he can. I mean, I'd save the biggest ones just because, you want those genetics passed on. But yeah, it's not going to matter if he's a smaller rooster or not. He's still going to be able to produce. It's no big deal. All right, we're going to be slow tonight, I'm afraid. We got 25 people in here, and chat's coming in slow. And again, I don't have anything to talk about, so I always say this, I should have things planned out, but I don't. Oh, and Joe Sandy says, because he's really pretty, I'm more into the eggs. Okay, well, if that's if you want to keep them just for that reason, then yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Go ahead and keep them just for that. Rabbit Homesteading's here, says, hey, y'all, good to see you. Thanks for joining. George says, going into autumn here, the males rarely crow now. I noticed the 2 cages with lights still produce eggs. The cage with no lights lay no eggs. Yeah, as your days start getting shorter, I guess you're in Australia, aren't you? I always forget. But as the days start getting shorter, they're going to stop laying unless you got lights on them. I noticed my roosters, like mine are 1.5 years going on 2 years old probably right now. They just don't crow that often anymore. I mean, occasionally, first thing in the morning, sometimes you get, but it's not like younger roosters where they're crowing all the time. They don't crow very much at all. But I'm getting eggs. I'm getting fertile eggs. I mean, they are breeding. They're just not doing a lot of crowing anymore. Andy says, hello, everyone from Southwest Michigan. Hope everyone is well. I'm doing well here. Hopefully you are too. Jacob Wolf says, Chris, do you prefer medicated or unmedicated chick feed for chickens? Well, for my meat chickens anyway, what I do is, hang on, I got to mark where I was so I don't lose my place. What I do with the meat chickens, we do 1 bag of medicated chick starter, and then we switch them over to a regular chick feed at that point. So just 1 bag. The medicated starter, there's a lot of misnomers about medicated chicken feed or quail, game bird feed for that matter. It's when they say medicated, it's not like an antibiotic or anything like that. It's a thiamine blocker is what it is. And it's to prevent coccidiosis infections. But still, I don't really want to use that all the time on them, especially if you're going to be eating them. It's not, the FDA says it's fine. You're not going to, it doesn't affect humans at all. But still, I just would rather not be eating the eggs and the birds if I'm feeding that to them all the time. So I do feed them, as a chicks. The very first bag of feed is a medicated feed to help them, prevent coccidiosis infections, any of those kinds of things, get them through that first, 1.5 weeks or 2 weeks. And then we switch over to a regular chick feed. Rabbit Homesteading says also Southwest Michigan here. Awesome. Billy Glass says, how many after the day lock should I wait before starting over? How many after the... Oh, wait, are you saying you're going into lockdown? You want to know how long to wait before you just call the hatch and start over with a new hatch? Most of your birds should start hatching out around day 17, day 18. right around in there. But it's not uncommon for them to hatch out all the way up till about day 25. So I'd give them all the way up till about day 25 before I would consider it completely a waste and, they're gone. Now, if you have a really poor hatch rate, if the majority of them start hatching out later, like they're hatching out day 20 or whatever, especially if you're getting a lot of like splayed leg or wry neck or any of those kinds of issues, then check your incubator, make sure it's, calibrated, like throw some thermometers in there because it probably is a little bit on the cool side. It's causing a slower hatch and some of those problems. But if everything goes well, you should have the majority of them hatching out on about day 17, 18. And then over the next couple of days, you'll have a couple of more that hatch out after that. Hopefully that answers your question. Joe Sandy says, I'm having a bad time with flies in the poop. I'm intrigued by black soldier fly. Can you tell me anything about them? So, well, yeah, the black soldier fly larvae are great for multiple reasons. The biggest thing they do is they just compost everything down like super fast. I mean, they are ferocious. They keep the manure pile well under control, and they seem to run out all the flies. So I get them naturally. They just occur. I mean, they just come in and populate my manure piles. I haven't seen them yet this year, but it's been a little bit cool. So I'm sure that they'll be there pretty quick, if not already starting to lay eggs and starting to hatch out there. But they will, yeah, they just keep it composted down. They keep the flies out. They're just fantastic to have around in the summertime. And then you want to know, can a person raise them? I can Google it, but I know you've made mention of them before. You could raise them. I've never done it actually, and I'm not so sure. I don't know how easy it is actually to do. I mean, black soldier fly larva is larva. So, they're going to turn into black soldier flies and fly away to go lay eggs and all that kind of stuff. I don't know where you live, if you have black soldier flies natively in your area or not. But you could buy black soldier fly larvae, I suppose. Try to introduce them and see if they, would live there. But yeah, you'd have to look up really. Most people that would raise them, they'll do it in like big Rubbermaid tubs, and they raise them primarily for like chicken feed and that kind of stuff. So they make a ramp basically inside the container, because as the larva gets ready to hatch, they'll crawl away from that. They'll crawl up that ramp basically, and then you put it to like a little hole with a bucket underneath it, and they'll crawl out that hole and fall in the bucket, and then you just take that and feed it to your chickens basically. But I don't know how well it would work to raise them to just try to, for like fly control and that kind of stuff. I don't know if that would work or not, but you could try. I just don't know a whole lot about raising them. Haven't tried it. Tony from Toronto, good to see you. Scott says, I'm looking into getting 50 female Coturnix quail just for eggs. Can I add some 2-month-old males in with them when the females are around a year old? You should be able to do that. Yeah. You say 2-month-old males. No, actually, I'm sorry. Let me back up. You're probably going to have a hard time doing that because at 2 months old, they're fully mature birds, and they're going to be seen as intruding on the territory and probably going to get the tar beat out of them when you try to introduce them. You'd be better off introducing them when they're 2-3 weeks old. They have a better chance of integrating in with the flock at that point, not getting picked on, not getting beat up, than you do whenever you wait till they get, even 4 or 5 weeks old. They could be seen as adults intruding in their territory. They get pretty territorial, and they don't typically like newcomers, except for babies. They tend to accept the babies. Like I said, 2-3 week old babies thrown right in, and I have really good luck with that and never have too many issues. Rabbit Homesteading says you can raise BSF, black soldier flies. I never have, but you can. Yeah, I've seen videos where people have done it. I've never done it, so I can't really speak to it very well. Buck Reynolds is here, says hello to everyone. Hello to you too. Bob Cole, good to see you. Joe Sandy says, but are the BSF flies a nuisance like other flies? No, they're not at all. They're a little tiny black. They're not like a house fly at all. They look almost like, you'd have to Google what they look like. They're almost like a little wasp of some kind, but they're not a wasp. They're a little fly, and you hardly ever see them. Hardly ever. They're not a nuisance kind of thing. They don't congregate around. They have no problems with them. So I like having them around because of that, because they tend to run off the flies from the manure pile. So I don't have to worry about flies laying eggs and producing and overpopulating. but you hardly ever see the black soldier flies, if ever. And the only times I ever see them is like when they happen to be down under the quail hutch, like laying eggs or something like that. S.O. Swanson says, greetings from Mississippi Delta. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. And Verna says, yes, you can raise them like you raise mealworms. Kind of. I mean, they are a fly, so they'll fly away. But, yeah. And Joe Sandy says, I live in southeast Michigan. Let's take a look. See, black soldier fly. Well, I guess they are pretty common in the United States all over, aren't they? It looks like, yeah, it looks like you should have native black soldier fly in your area. They're pretty common everywhere through the United States. Yeah, S.O. Swanson says, definitely not a nuisance. They don't even come near you. Joe Sandy says, I'll search some more. Thanks for your input. Yeah, you can, basically, if you just set up proper, like a tote, basically set it up with the proper conditions or whatever, you can just lure them in to lay eggs and start producing. Like I said, they just do it naturally in my quail manure. I mean, in rabbit manure sometimes too. Joy from Western Oregon. Good to see you. And Rabbit Homesteading says, lots of Michigan folks here, it seems. Yeah, there are quite a few Michigan people here, aren't there? Andy says, let's see. My Egyptian quail have been laying for a couple of weeks. They're 8 weeks this weekend. Will the eggs be okay to save for hatching now? Yeah, probably so. You can check them for fertility if you want to. Take, 10 eggs or whatever and crack them open, dump them in a bowl one at a time. It'll be a lot easier. You'll see a little white spot on the yolk. That's not the sign that they're fertile. It just means it's a mature egg. Look for a bullseye ring around that white spot. It's kind of faint, but you should be able to see it. And if, depending on, like, say, out of 10, if you get like 9 of them that look fertile, then yeah, you're good to hatch. Or you can just save them up and try to hatch them and see how it goes. They should be fertile. If they've been laying for a couple of weeks, your roosters are crowing, chances are you got fertile eggs and you should be good. Chester Hickman says, good evening. Good evening to you too. Let's see. Tiny Quail Ranch says, Chris, thank you. We watched your videos for months now to learn all we could. We incubated our first batch of eggs from our own birds and got 48 of 48 hatch, 100% hatch rate, all thanks to you. Well, that is awesome. Don't count on that happening every time. That's almost unheard of, but well done. I don't deserve credit for that. You do, because 100% hatch rates, like I said, almost unheard of. Good job. Hogwaller Creek says, did you have any bad weather over the past week? Yeah, we've had bad weather pretty much every day over the past week. We had 2 different storms come through, one late Monday night. I woke up about a little after 11 o'clock. The alarm went off telling us a storm, was coming through, and I got up and turned the TV on, watched the weather. It kind of went around us. So we had storms to the south of us that were producing a tornado, not very far. I mean, pretty close, and it was a small, it was like an EF0, EF1, but still it was a tornado. And then we had some to the north that were producing tornadoes, again, not very far, but went around us. I stayed up until, it was about midnight, a little after midnight, whenever, it kind of passed, the threat was passed, went back to bed. And then, let's see, was that Monday? Yeah, that was Monday night. And then yesterday it was. Yesterday we had storms coming through it was early afternoon, probably about 1 o'clock or so. And again, tornado produced, just to the east of us and blew over. I mean, we were spared here. I mean, it didn't hit us, but they're all around us. But luckily I've been pretty spared by it. Jacob Wolf says, can you really cook and put rabbit in any chicken dish? I have a chicken taco recipe, and I've been thinking about trying it with rabbit instead of chicken. For the most part, yeah, any chicken dish is going to do fine with rabbit. Especially if it's like chicken breast recipe, because it's very similar to chicken breast. I wouldn't go with fried. In my opinion, it's too lean. It just doesn't fry up as well. But anything else, I do it in enchiladas. I do it all kinds of different things. So yeah, you can definitely replace, for the most part, any chicken dish. You can replace rabbit with it. Joe Sandy says, yes, I did a preliminary search of the BSF. They seem really incredible for what I've read so far. Oh, they are. They're definitely worth having around if you can get them to hang out. Rabbit Homesteading says, I'm pretty sure I have seen BSF here in Southwest Michigan, like 99% sure it was one. Yeah, it probably was. If you look one up, I mean, they're pretty obvious what they are. They're very small, but let's see. Yeah, just a little black, like I said, almost look like a wasp. They're not very big. They're only about, probably about that long, maybe at the most. Skinny. They're pretty easy to spot once you know what they are. But I don't see them very often. I know they're around. I just very seldom see them. Tiny Quail Ranch says, and hey, from Ontario. Hello to you too. Good to see you. Chester Hickman says, what size nest boxes are good for New Zealand rabbits? Oh, let's see. People keep asking me that, and I can't ever remember what size mine are. Let me look up. This one says 18 inches long, 12 inches wide, 12 inches high. I think mine are close to that. I'm not sure if they're quite 12 inches wide, but they're pretty close to that. I did a video on how to make a wire nest box, and I gave the measurements in it, but it's been so long ago, I can't remember what size I made them. So hang on, I'm getting all kinds of weird notifications on my phone. Let me see what those are. Okay, that's not important right now. I'm not sure why it's notifying me of that. So anyway, yeah, that should be like 12 inches, 18 inches long, 12 inches wide, 12 inches high. I think I would go a little bit shorter than that in the front, 12 inches, probably somewhere around like 10 inches at the most in the front. Cesar Reyes says, hello, Chris and everyone. Hello to you too. Good to see you. Joe Cindy says, are you near Ava, Chris? I saw a tornado was headed that way yesterday, or maybe it was Tuesday. Yeah, Ava is not very far away. It's an hour and a half drive. It's to the east of us, but it's the same storm that came through here that went through Ava. Living Traditions Homestead is in the Ava area, so I haven't seen anything from them. I'm assuming they're fine. But there was a tornado down in Monette, which is a little ways from Ava. It's not super close. It's 45 minutes from here, so halfway between here and Ava probably. But yeah, it was the same storm system. Tiny Quail Ranch says, Chris, question, our brooder is at a high number for humidity inside. What should it be? Your brooder? We're talking about like you've got the brooder box, right? Don't worry about humidity. I mean, unless it's like super high, you don't need to worry about it. I mean, I would say unless it's like 85%, or higher, that's a little high. But it probably isn't that high. So if it is, put some ventilation in there, get some airflow going. But other than that, no, you don't need to worry about humidity. It's not really an issue. Once they're hatched out, I mean, the humidity is not, they're all dried out. They're fluffy. The humidity is not really anything to be concerned about. Just, make sure they got plenty of ventilation and don't let it get too terribly high in there. You don't want it to be a sauna and have them, stay damp and wet all the time. Rabbit Homesteading says, I don't know how true it is, but I heard all chicken recipes are based off rabbit because chickens are not native here. Interesting. I kind of doubt that's true. That may have been like, a majority of chicken recipes, especially old recipes maybe, but I kind of doubt that that's true, that all of them. I mean, I think plenty of people have created chicken recipes based solely on chicken. I mean, they've been around for a long time. George says, let's see, how often do you get quail? How often do you eat quail, Chris? I produce about 120 a season, twice a year. Gives us 4 per week to eat, 1 meal a week. To be honest, can't really eat it more often than that. Yeah, we don't eat a ton of quail. We go through periods where we eat more and periods where we eat less, where we might eat it 2 or 3 times a month, and then we might go for a couple of months without eating any. Um, it just depends, really. Same things with rabbits, really. We kind of go through. We eat a bunch of rabbit for a little while, and then we won't eat any for a while, and then we'll go back and forth. Same things with chickens, you know. Joe Sandy says, at what age do you like to process your roosters when they are full grown? Yeah, about 8 weeks is when I usually process my roosters or hens, any of those. Verna's saying the same thing. Sandy, at 8 weeks, that works best. Tiny Quail Ranch says, don't forget the thumbs up, everybody. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We got 21 thumbs ups here. We're doing okay. How are we doing on time? 25 after. Joe Sandy said, okay. Talking to somebody else. I'll let you. War Child's here. Good to see you. Buck Reynolds says, nest box should be 18 long, 10 wide, 8 tall. There you go. That's probably about right. Thank you for looking that up and telling me. I couldn't remember. I can't remember what size I made mine. It's been a while since I made them. They've held up forever, and I haven't had to replace them, so I don't remember. George says, I just do a 4 to 5 egg ratio. I always eat a 20 egg omelet. Or rarely bake more roasts, etc. Yeah, I'm not much of a baker myself, but yeah, I always tell, it's funny when you tell people I had a 20 egg omelet and they think, oh my gosh. Joe Sandy says, we went to a riding ranch in Ava years ago for our 25th anniversary called Bucks and Spurs. Beautiful area. Yeah, Ava is a nice area. And it's right in the Ozarks. And I mean, it's a beautiful area. Marty says, Chris, your nest boxes are 18 long, 10 high, 10 wide. Okay, there we go. I just watched the video and made one a couple of weeks ago. Great video. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So there we go. 18 long, 10 high, 10 wide. You can get away with any of those measurements that we gave you. It's not a hard, fast rule, and it's not like the rabbit's going to be like, no, this is just not the right size for me. I'm not going to use it. It's not like that at all. So, those are the ones I use. They work great, but you can get away with a different size. They don't have to be that exact measurement. Hogwaller Creek says, is it normal to get a quail egg that's about 3 times the size of a quarter? I wouldn't say that's okay. That seems awful big. I'm trying to put a quarter 3 times the size. Yeah, that's awful big, isn't it? So I wouldn't say that's absolutely normal, but it's not that abnormal either. We get, especially when they first start laying, you're going to get little bitty tiny eggs, great big eggs. It's probably a double yolk. I wouldn't try to incubate it. It probably won't hatch out, but it's not terribly uncommon to get those. It seems like when they first start laying, or like if they've taken a break for the season and then they start laying again, you get a bunch of those weird eggs like that, and those will pop up every once in a while. Kenneth says, what year did you start this chat? I don't know, honestly. It's been a while. We've been doing live broadcasts for a long time. I don't remember what, I guess I could look it up, couldn't I? I could look back and see when my first chat live broadcast was. I don't know. Let's find out. Let's see if I can look that up real quick. What's going on here? Why everything's changed around? I can't find what I'm looking for. I think that's the right place. Boy, this may take a little while for me to figure out. I don't know if this is worth doing while we're on it, because I have to scroll down. I'm looking back. I know it's been at least 4 years. 5 years ago, I was doing it. 6 years ago. So we're probably looking at like 6, 7 years. About 6 years, it looks like. 6 years ago, I think, was when I did my first one. Marty says, the front I made 5 inches high. Yeah, that should be fine. S.O. Swanson says your channel start date was August 31st, 2014, in case you could not remember. Yeah, well, that's the start of the channel. That's not when I started doing lives, though. I didn't start doing lives right away. But yeah, it's been a while. I've been doing them for like about 10 years. I've been doing this channel. Don Skin says, hello from South Mississippi. Reduced our flock, processed 52 quail this week, having quail gumbo tonight. Well, awesome. That sounds good. Hopefully it turns out good. Hogwaller Creek says, yes, they only been laying for about 2 weeks. What was that a response to? I'm not sure. I lost track of that. Oh, there it is. Is it normal? Okay. That was what it was about the huge quail egg. They've only been laying for about 2 weeks. And yeah, it's pretty common. You're going to run into some of those things, like I said, when they first start laying. But you probably won't see a whole lot of those great big eggs like that. And again, don't try to incubate it because it probably won't hatch out. But it's probably a double yolk egg. So Joe Sandy says 3 times the size of a quarter. That's like a duck egg. How could a quail even lay it? That ouch. I don't think it's quite as big as a duck egg, is it? Quarter. I don't know. It's pretty big. I always think the same thing, though. Whenever I see a great big egg like that, I'm always like, holy cow, that poor bird. Chester says, I have to go for the evening. Well, hey, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you have a good evening. There's Carlos. Good to see you, Carlos. Thanks for joining us. Desert Homestead says, have you ever seen or raised Gamble's quail? Here in Arizona, I see them a lot. I just saw a mama with about 20 golf ball sized babies go across my yard. I wonder if they are tasty. I'm sure they are. They're probably just like any other quail. I'm sure they'd be good. But they are a native bird, so you'd have to have a permit to be able to raise them. I have never personally raised it. I've seen pictures of them, but they're not native in my area, so I haven't ever seen them actually live. Oh, yeah. Want to know about my Amazon link not working? I'm sorry. Who was that said that? Let me check something here. Jay, I guess it is. Have you been able to check your Amazon link? Didn't work. Yeah, I checked it early. I thought I fixed it in my last video, but let me see something here real quick. Videos. There we go. I thought I'd fixed it in that video. Let's see something here real quick. I don't know why it keeps getting cut off. I know I put it in there the right way, but yeah, it's for some reason it keeps getting cut off. I'm going to have to look into it and see what I can do. I know I fixed it in that last video I populated, and for some reason it's cut off again. Joshua Burry says, hey man, just checked on my rabbits. Looks like I may be a fermite problem with my nursing doe. Is ivermectin safe while she's nursing the kits, or any other ideas? What makes you think there's a fermite problem, first of all? But as far as is it safe, I honestly don't know. I mean, I'd be apprehensive to give it to her while she's nursing, but let me see real quick. Okay, are not included in this cautionary statement. Only applies to high doses. So, I'm getting conflicting information on whether it's safe or not. You'd have to research that a little bit because I really don't know. I'd be hesitant to give it to them while they're nursing, but that's just me. Joe Sandy says, I know you can easily pop a head off of a quail. I just watched it done many times, but is this simple thing I saw on Katernik's Corner called a quail pop? Is anybody familiar? I think I've heard of that before, but I've never really looked into it too much, so I can't really speak to it. Joe Sandy says it's expensive, but looks like something that you could buy at a hardware store. I'd have to look it up. I'm sure that you could. Yeah. Okay. So Sorry, I got distracted. Yeah, I'd have to look into it. It's probably, I mean, I can't imagine if it's expensive. I don't know that I'd spend money on it because it's pretty, I don't know that it's really necessary. There's a lot of different ways that you could, process your quail um, without having to spend a lot of money on anything. Verna says, Chris, your first live was the joke about quitting YouTube. Your actual first live was 6/20/2017. So, okay. Carlos says, I have a limping hen. What can I do? Well, check and see if you got foot problems. Check for, what you're looking for basically is bumblefoot. Every once in a while, I get a hen that looks like they like sprained their leg or something like that, and they seem to get along just fine. They kind of limp around on it a little bit, but then they get over it. But check their foot pad, and see if you've got bumblefoot. Now, what you're looking for there is like an abscess or something like an infection in the foot pad, basically. If that's the case, to cure that, you would need to, probably lance it, get whatever is in there causing the infection out. Like, if it's a grain of sand or a splinter or, a thorn, something like that, get that out of the foot, treat it with like an Epsom salt bath, soak it in an Epsom salt bath, keep it clean. I mean, you can go through all that, or if you have other birds, just process the bird and be done with it. But, you could do it a couple of different ways. If you don't see any kind of issues with, an infection in the foot pad or something like that, then it's probably more like a sprained leg of some kind. If the bird's getting around okay, eating and drinking okay, doesn't seem to be, really in distress or anything like that, give it a little bit of time. It may heal up, it may not. And again, if it's not healing up after, I'd say about a week, 2 weeks at the most, I'd probably process the bird, put it out of its misery. But that's just the way I would handle it. Joe Sandy says, I think it could do the easier than just using. Oh, I think I could do that easier than just using my hand and the scissor thing. I'm afraid my scissors won't be sharp enough. Yeah, whenever I'm processing with scissors, I take a screwdriver and with the handle in this way, so hold on to the the shaft that comes off of it, the handle that way, knock them on the head, so it puts them out basically. That way, I'm not cutting the head off of them, sawing on their head like while they're still conscious and alive. It basically puts them out. S.O. Swanson says it's very similar to a gate latch turned sideways. Check your local hardware store. There you go. Jay says, okay, I'll keep checking. So can give you some support. My quail chicks are 13 days old, first flock. So you're talking about the link. Yeah, it's just the part that's cut off is rednecked. It's just slightly rednecked. And you could do a search for it if you needed to. I'll look into it and see what I can do to figure that out. I don't know why it's cutting off. It's probably cutting off all my other ones too. I don't know why. Irritating. I may have to do a short link, shorten the links a little bit or something. I don't know. Joe Sandy says, S.S. Swanson, you were the only one who mentioned that to me before. I looked and couldn't find it. I'll keep checking. Thank you. There you go. Carlos says it does not have bumblefoot. Well, and you say, I think it may be my rooster. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, there's not a lot you can do sometimes. Sometimes, like I said, they just have a little bit of a leg problem for whatever reason. And if you're sure there's no bumblefoot, well, give it a week or two and see if it recovers. If it's getting around okay, eating, drinking, all those kinds of things, it might just recover from it and be just fine. But, sometimes birds injure themselves and sometimes they don't recover. There's just not much you can do. I mean, you could take it to a vet. You could do, but that's just, it's not worth it, in my opinion. Dragon Girls here says, hey, everyone, late as usual. It's all good. We don't keep attendance here. You're fine. Joe Sandy says, not paying $35 on Etsy for a gate latch. No offense if the creator of that is here. Buck Reynolds says, Ivomec. Yes, it is. I don't know what that is. That it's safe? Is that what you're saying? It's safe to use on nursing does? I'm not sure if that's what you mean. Bev says, any suggestions on how to attach 1/2 inch hardware cloth to a new steel frame pin? Was looking at hog ring fasteners, but didn't think the tool will fit the 1/2 inch wire. Wasn't keen on the idea of zip ties. So, boy, I don't know. I haven't thought about trying to do that. You could always cut a couple of pieces away to make a hole big enough for the hog ring to fit through the hardware cloth. Um, I mean, or wire. You could wire it, with pieces of wire instead of zip ties. Boy, that's a tricky one. I don't have any other ideas right off the top of my head. Maybe somebody else will. Buck Reynolds says, I use horse ivermectin, I think is what that is, but okay. Joshua Barris says, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Any other treatment or tricks you've used for, what are we talking about now? Oh, we're not talking about the quail with the leg problems, are we? I've forgotten. I've lost track. Oh, fur mites. Okay. Sometimes you got to give me, I've answered a lot between now and then, and I can't remember what we were talking about when we talked about last before. So I've never had an issue with fur mites, so I can't really speak to them very well. Um, if it's not terrible, I mean, I would wait until she's done nursing and then treat her for it. But again, I'm not sure how you know that it's fur mites. I don't know. I mean, I've never had the issue. If you're talking about now, if it's her ears and she's got like scabs in her ears, those are probably ear mites. And you can just treat those with olive oil or any kind of food grade oil, a couple of drops in her ears every day until they're gone. That's pretty simple to treat. I guess you could treat the rest of her like that too, but boy, that's a lot of oil put all over your rabbit, oil your rabbit down. That may not work that well on fur mites. I really don't know. Outside in Georgia says, plan to start rabbits after the summer heat. What would be a good month to start? Honestly, any month is a good month to start with, getting your rabbits anyway. I don't know where you live, so you're in Georgia apparently. I don't know what the climate is exactly in Georgia. I like to breed starting in the fall, so usually, late October-ish, somewhere right around in there. Our average first frost date is around mid-October, so usually around October, beginning of October to mid-October, I'm ready to start breeding. Yeah, and Verna's saying I would go ahead and get them now so they'll be ready to breed in the fall. That's probably not bad advice. Hey, there's Andy Rabbit. Good to see you. Says, how's everybody doing? I'm doing well. Hopefully you are too. Joe Sandy says, love the shirt, Chris. What am I wearing today? Oh, yeah, one of my favorite Ronald Reagan quotes. It's a great one. This shirt's a little big on me, but that's okay. Better too big than too small. Bob Cole says, time to get new roos. Last batch of 24 I got. 2 chicks, 1 more pipped. The rest of the eggs not fertilized. Still have the 2 chicks. Not sure what I can do with 2 except cull. A week old now. And Bob says, the Reagan quote on your shirt is outstanding. Yeah, I think so too. It's a great one. So yeah, I mean, if you're sure that they weren't fertile, just because they didn't hatch doesn't necessarily mean they weren't fertile. But if you're sure they weren't fertile, it sounds like you may need to for sure. And Buck Reynolds says, yes, does with babies. Okay, there you go. So that's what you're saying. That yeah, it's fine to use on the nursing doe. I mean, I guess if you need to, that's what you can do. And Bob's saying to George, you might try quiche for a change from omelets. There you go. Scott says, Bev Smith, have you thought about drilling holes and using rivets with washers? That's not a bad idea. And then Verna's placing a link for Sandy. Says you can check this one out to get an idea what you look for at the hardware store. So that looks like, let's see, what is that? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Where are we at here? Bev Smith says, oh my, that was such a great idea to cut one section of 1/2 inch cloth to get the tool in. That'll work. Wasn't looking forward to hand twisting wire to cover a 8x8 by 6 inch pin. Yeah, I don't blame you. That would be a lot of work, wouldn't it? Bev Smith says, Scott, I wasn't sure if I could drill into steel post. Yeah, it's going to be tough to do for sure. You'd need a good bit. And then Verna saying, yeah, if you use a tap first and then drill with a proper bit. That's true. I mean, it's going to be difficult, but you could do it. Let's see. Christy Smith says, question, my quail have seemed to crave the calcium flakes. I only give them a small amount. They're on a 22% game bird feed without calcium. Thank you. Okay. So, yeah, if you're sure your game bird feed has no calcium in it, that seems odd. I mean, if it's a game bird feed, it should have calcium. They don't need a lot. They only need about 1.5%, 2% calcium in their diet. But yeah, if it doesn't have it, then and don't mix it in with their feed. Just give it to them on the side. They'll feed on basically eat as much as they need to of it. But yeah, it seems like if it doesn't have it, then that makes sense why they're craving it. Bob says to Joe Sandy, poultry shears with gripper teeth on one side work well. I use Cutco kitchen shears. Yeah, I just use whatever cheap kitchen shears I have. I mean, they're not, I don't spend a lot of money on kitchen shears. Make sure if you're going to buy kitchen shears, get some that will come apart so you can clean them. You don't want them that you can't take them apart. You'll never get them real clean. Verna says, as long as it is free feed and not mixed with their feed, they will be fine. Yep, I agree. That's kind of what I meant to say if I didn't say it that way. George Kaiser says, we only eat real food this year from our plot, chickens, quail, variety of veggies. No carbs since January 1st. Lost 45 pounds and my wife 18 pounds. The only thing we buy is dairy, soap, etc. Well, that's awesome. Glad to hear that's working well for you. Carlos says, used a cone bit for drilling in steel. Is that what you're talking about? Bev Smith says, think I'll go with the cutting the cloth and using the clips. Pretty sure my little drill won't have the power to drill through steel posts, even with the right bit. Yeah, that would be some work for sure. And then S.O. Swanson says, get some goats, George. That'll take care of the dairy and the soap. Christy Smith says, thank you. Thank you. He's from what? Thank you. He's from the calcium info. Maybe it's thank you for the calcium info. I do separate it. Okay, good. How are we doing on time here? We got about 13 minutes left, and then I'll be wrapping this one up. It is warm in here tonight. I should have opened a window or something. Put a fan in here, I guess. All right. And we ran to the end of the chat. I'm just waiting for something to come through so we can talk a little bit more. Again, I need to plan something out. I never have anything planned. I just kind of hoping that the chat's going to keep going all the way to the end of the broadcast, and it usually does. Let's see. George says, we got 2 sheep, slaughtered 1, still living off of that. I'm scared that goats would eat our veggies. They might. In my experience, goats are not real. I mean, they're not. I mean, it depends on what kind of veggies you have. They might eat them. I'm not saying they won't, but they tend to really like more like woody and like tree limbs and brambles and that kind of stuff. They're not big on like grass or any of those kinds of things. But I may be wrong. I don't have a lot of experience with goats. Tim says show's pretty good tonight. Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it. Joe Sandy says I started hardening off my pepper plants and tomato plants today, hoping we don't get any more frosts. But my technical date is May 15th. Ooh, that's pushing it. Ours is April 15th. And, but I always wait at least a couple of weeks, almost a month after that before I get my tomatoes out. Because, tomatoes, peppers, those are heat-loving plants. I mean, they don't really do well in cool temperatures. So I want to be well past frost and even past cold temperatures. We're getting down. We're going to be a little bit cool tonight, 50 degrees. That's not terribly cold. But it is a little bit on the cool side, but I think we're going to be good to go ahead and plant out to the garden. Bev Smith says, summer's already hit Florida. My poor birds are panting away, even with the fans on. Yeah, Florida, I'm sure it has. We haven't been too hot yet. We haven't even turned on our air conditioner yet because it's just like it was 75 degrees today. It was pretty nice. So Swanson says, how are the chicken grow outs doing? Still got all of them. Yeah, haven't lost any yet, and they're doing fine. Starting to eat a lot. They're going through a bag of feed about every 2-3 days, and they're growing. It's going to get crowded in the brooder or the tractor here before long, but I don't know exactly how I'm going to handle that. They're not overly crowded at this point. We'll see how that goes as they get a little bit bigger. Jacob says, do you have any new videos planned? Not really. I'm trying to come up with stuff, but man, it is hard to come up with new topics that I haven't covered before. And, I don't mean to slow down on my videos. I just have such a hard time coming up with a topic or something to shoot. So, this weekend I'll probably be planting. So I'll take the camera out with me and film something just to have something to put up for you guys. But I don't know how exciting that's going to be. Verna says, Chris, Saturday is my birthday, so my Saturday morning chat will be to celebrate my birthday. Well, awesome. Happy birthday. I will probably forget by then, no offense, but hopefully it is a good one, and happy birthday. Jacob Bull says, do you know what day and time you're speaking at QuailCon yet? Not yet, but I'll be there. Don't know exactly what. I think all the speakers are on one day, aren't they? If I remember right. I don't remember, honestly. Andy Rabbit says, why do kids know what jacks are? What? Oh, why don't kids know what jacks are anymore? Well, I don't think they're really that popular. I mean, that's probably why. They got other things to keep them more entertained, I guess. And then you said yesterday was your dad's birthday. Well, tell your dad happy birthday. Nikki James says, LOL, handy because we are old. Yep. S.S. Swanson says, because they hurt my feet. Joe Sandy says, I usually wait a couple of weeks past the due date too. Learned that the hard way. Yeah, for sure. I have too. Berna says, Chris, you can do a video even if you have done it before. People like updated videos. Yeah, that's true. I'll try to do better at that. I'll try to. Oh, S.O. Swanson knows that I'll be speaking on Sunday, September 1st. Kim says, I have one 3-week-old quail that I put in the group of older quail. The older ones seem to want to treat her like she is an adult. Should I wait longer to put them together? What, you have one 3-week-old quail that you put in the pen with a group of older quail? No, I wouldn't wait any longer. Waiting longer is probably going to make it harder for them to accept her. 3 weeks old, I mean, I usually can get away with 3 weeks old, but much past that, it's tough to get them mixed in without them getting beat up and picked on. So, my best bet would be just, hope for the best, hopefully they accept her, let her in. Joy says, my LG incubator spiked a temp of 109. I think my eggs are cooked. I called Miller Manufacturing. They're shipping me replacement parts for free. Wonderful company. Yeah, I agree. I've had a couple of little issues with the incubator, and I've had my incubator a long time. So when I say a couple of issues, this is over the course of a long time. But every time they've just been super responsive, ship you brand new parts for free, try to help you troubleshoot the issues. I mean, they're really a good company. Very good customer service. And then S.O. Swanson says, depends on the length of the spike. Hope for the best and keep going. Yeah, well, that's what I would do too. Go ahead and keep them incubating and see how they do in the end. We got about 5 minutes left. I'm gonna have to wrap this one up. And then somebody wanted me to tell a story. I don't have a story to tell. Somebody said, in this, I think it was Andy maybe, when I said I didn't have any, I was waiting for the chat catch up, so I had something to talk about. She said, well, tell a story. I don't have much of a story to tell. I did have it was kind of funny yesterday. I moved the chickens, in the tractor, and yesterday afternoon after I got home from work, I'm moving them twice a day because there's so many in there. And one of them found a bug, and I don't know what it was, probably a grasshopper or something like that, and picked it up and started running with it. And all the other, I mean, there were all these birds chasing it around, trying to steal this bug from it. And, you know, they're in this chicken tractor. They can't go very far. It was kind of funny to watch. George says, my incubator had a temp spike. The fan broke in the middle of the night. I ended up hatching 34 of 36. But they came a couple of days early. Yeah. It says hot seemed to work better for some reason. Yeah, like you said, though, I mean, depending on how long it was that temperature, it may not be the end of the world. It probably isn't that big of a deal. All right. I hate these long silences. I always feel bad just sitting here waiting. But, you know, what can I do? I saw that Joe Sandy says, anybody that follows Living Traditions Homestead, Kevin's father came through his heart surgery well. I did see that. I've been praying for them. So, yeah, I saw that was good. That was good news. I don't watch their videos a lot. I do like them. And I do try to keep, you know, just a little bit of an eye on how things are going with them. Just because, you know, I want to know how things are going for them. But I don't watch a lot of their videos. But I did see that they had surgery coming up for their father, and that was, he came through fine. So that was good. TM says, can you candle the eggs or something to check and see if they're okay? Well, hang on. Sorry. Oh, yawning. You can candle the eggs. I don't know where they're at in the process. I candle right before lockdown if I can. I very seldom do. But yeah, you could candle them at that point. But, you know, it's not going to tell you if the birds are still alive necessarily. It's just going to tell you which ones have developed at that point. So I don't know that it's even worth trying. I would just let them go and see how they do. You know, what's the worst that's going to happen? None of them hatch or whatever. Okay, we got about 3 minutes left. Chat has slowed down for sure. Andy says, I'm glad to hear they came through well. Thanks for telling us. Yeah, that was good news for sure. Sounds like he's had quite a few little health problems, so I'm glad to hear he's doing well. I don't know if that's still good. Sorry, got distracted by something. Joe Sandy says, how's Mrs. Redneck? Wish her well. She's doing really well. Thank you. Appreciate that. I will tell her you said that. Verna says, that's what I do, Chris. I take the wait and see attitude. Nature can surprise you. For sure. George Kaiser says, if you were Aussie, Chris, you'd be able to pull out a yarn to break the silence. Yeah, I'm usually pretty good at that stuff, but sometimes I get put on the spot. I don't have anything planned to talk about. And Andy says, yes, it can surprise me for sure. TM says, how big are your chickens getting? Well, they're probably, I don't know. I mean, they're this big around. They're Cornish game hen size now. Maybe a little bit bigger, not much, but about the size of Cornish game hen. Probably a little bigger than that. So they still got a little bit of time, a couple more weeks. Kim says, did you ever have a bird eliminate another bird when they're together? You mean like, are we talking quail? Like, did I ever have quail kill another bird? Yeah, they kill each other all the time. Not all the time, but it's not an uncommon thing, especially if you try to mix together new birds with, birds that, that have been there together for a while. And it happens from time to time. Yeah, so Swanson says, time to build a second tractor so you can do even more next year. Yeah, I thought about it, but I don't know. We'll see. Joe Sandy says, thanks for your help tonight, Chris, and everybody. Have a good evening. You too. Thank you for joining. I appreciate that. And then one or two more comments, and then we'll wrap this one up. Andy Rabbit says, after a butchering day, we may never get that many again. LOL. Yeah, after 40, I may never. I don't know. We'll see. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this one up. It was good to see you guys. Thank you for joining. I appreciate that. Should be back next Thursday. Don't see any reason why, and I'll do my best to get a video out for you this weekend. And as always, God bless. We'll see you guys. Good night.